CID folks have just been really, really busy. We're really proud of the work that they've been doing. And so we wanted to brief you all up on a couple of developments from over the last couple of days. Let me start out with a case of a missing child that was recovered, and an arrest that was made as a result of that case. Several days ago, late October, in fact, we received a call for a report of a missing 15-year-old female. I will not be providing the name of that young lady, being that the suspect that she was found to be in the custody of has been arrested for sexual assault of a child, among other charges. And of course, I'll give you his name here shortly, but we won't be giving the name of that victim other than to say that she has been recovered and she is safe with family at this point. But what we do know is that our CID unit and our missing persons group has been literally working around the clock on this case over the course of the past couple of days. The investigation led them to a house in Northeast Bexar County, where a suspect, 22-year-old Salim Assad Hartshorn, 22 years of age, was found in a house actually not far from where the young lady disappeared from. Hartshorn initially told us that she was not there. He didn't know who we were talking about. However, another resident in the home let us know that she was there, and so we were able to get her recovered. Assad Hartshorn faces 2 charges: harboring of a runaway child, which is a Class A misdemeanor, and sexual assault of a child, which is a second-degree felony. We are just really, really happy to be able to get this young lady back home safely. Of course, we will, be following through on this case. Does anybody have any questions on it? Okay, déjame darles más información tocante un caso de una jovencita de 15 años de edad que se desapareció hace unos cuantos días, a los últimos de octubre. Nuestros oficiales han estado trabajando duro en este caso para poder encontrar a la jovencita. Anoche nosotros logramos encontrarla en una casa en el noreste del condado. Ella fue encontrada bajo la custodia de Salim Assad Hartshorn, un hombre de 22 años de edad. Él se enfrenta con varios cargos por darle auxilio a un niño que se ha salido de la casa, pero también por asalto sexual contra la víctima. En estos momentos no vamos a dar el nombre de la jovencita porque obviamente es una víctima de asalto sexual, y pues ahorita nomás vamos a dar el nombre del sospechoso. Desafortunadamente, donde la encontramos es una casa bien cerca de la casa de donde ella se desapareció. Entonces, eso nos quiere decir que pues en cada momento, cada uno de nuestros jóvenes, nosotros tenemos que tener bastante cuidado con ellos. En cualquier momento ellos se pueden desaparecer, y pues obviamente a nosotros nos da mucho gusto poder encontrar a esta jovencita y ponerse para atrás ponerla para atrás con su familia. Let me give you one stat that we have discussed at length over the last couple of days. In investigating this case, was just kind of given anecdotally an observation on the part of some of the folks in CID. And, obviously I don't really know what to say about this statistic other than it's a scary statistic. And I wish I knew more to say, more to be able to explain why it exists. But let me just give you some of these numbers. They're really quite sobering. As of today, from October 1st to today, we have received about 155 calls for missing persons or missing adults. That could be children and adults. They just told me that there had been an uptick. I can tell you that since just over the past couple of weeks, we've gotten 155 calls. The same time period last year, we had 68. So that tells me that those numbers are up drastically. I don't know why. I wish I could offer up more of an explanation on why, but all we can do is concentrate on raising awareness at this point. We don't know if this is just one of those statistics that's a fluke, that it's on the uptick now, and at some point it'll come down without rhyme or reason. But what we can tell you is just some basic tips that we give to parents when it comes to preventing runaways, preventing victims of human trafficking, especially among youngsters. Be wary of who they're associating with in person and on social media. We just a couple of days ago gave a presentation at Young Women's Leadership Academy with Ransom Life, which is our Lures and Lies presentation that we do for young folks. We also do those presentations for parents and for educators. We give a lot of tips on how to avoid our children running away and thereby becoming victims of domestic violence. We know that the vast majority of runaways, within 4 days of them disappearing, the vast majority of them, upwards of 98% of them, will be approached by a trafficker. We also know that once they enter that world of trafficking, we only stand about a 2% chance of getting them back. And so it's a very, very scary thing for us, especially in light of knowing that our numbers are so high right now. So if you would like to host one of those human trafficking seminars that we do with Ransom Life, you can email us at stophumantrafficking@bear.org, and we'd be happy to do one of those virtually via Zoom, or we can also do them in person. Quite frankly, we don't care if there's 2 people in the room or in the chat room or 102. We just want people to have that information. So again, that email that you can send an email to requesting a presentation, stophumantrafficking@bear.org. Michael Board, I guess you got a question on, was the teen victim being trafficked? At this point, we don't have any indicators that she was trafficked. But let me start out by saying this. Traffickers sometimes don't start out right away trafficking. Sometimes it starts out as a sexual relationship. In the child's mind, it's a romantic relationship. This person loves them and doesn't, showers them with gifts and affection and grooms them. They may take during that time period, that courtship period, they may take pornographic pictures of that child or videos of that child. That is then used to extort that child into the world of trafficking right now. So, quite frankly, at this point, I wish we had gotten her back sooner than that sexual activity or sexual assault occurring. But at this point, we do believe that we got her back before it devolved even further into something like trafficking. But that is certainly something that we always need to be on the lookout for. Again, this young lady is back home safe and sound. We certainly hope that she can get her life back together and get beyond this, what happened to her. Obviously, we know she'll never be back to 100% the way she was beforehand, but we certainly hope that she can try to find some normalcy moving forward. And certainly it brings us a great amount of satisfaction knowing that Salim Assad Harshorn is behind bars. Are there any questions on that case?
Javier.
Yes,
Javier, nada más si me puedes decir, por favor, en español, la cifra tan preocupante de personas desaparecidas que de repente te está llegando, la que dijiste ahorita, y en un momento dado también, si puede estar relacionado con lo que estás hablando ahorita de personas desaparecidas, por favor.
Sí, sabemos que hasta ahorita nuestros oficiales detectives nos han dicho que han visto el número de reportes de personas desaparecidas incrementando. Pero ahora que me dieron el número, sabemos que hasta este punto tenemos más que 155 llamadas por personas desaparecidas. Esos son niños y también adultos. 155. El año pasado, al mismo tiempo, teníamos 68 hasta ese punto. Entonces, ya sabemos que realmente ese número ha incrementado dramáticamente y pues ahorita no se sabe por qué. No se sabe si esto es nomás un número que vamos viendo incrementando por ninguna razón o si hay evidencia para poder averiguar por qué estamos viendo estos números incrementando. Lo que sí se sabe es que nosotros urgimos al público que tengan mucho cuidado con los jóvenes tienen que fijarse con quién se están juntando en persona, pero también en las redes sociales. Tienen que estar al tanto con quién está hablando su jovencito o jovencita. Esta niña, esta víctima, sí sabíamos que ahora por la evidencia que nosotros tenemos, ella ha estado hablando con este sospechoso por algún tiempo, unas semanas, unos meses, y desafortunadamente parece que la familia de esta niña ni sabían que este sospechoso existía. Es más, ellos no sabían que este sospechoso vivía nomás unas cuantas casas alrededor de su casa de ella. Entonces, imagínense, él tuvo éxito por esconderla en la casa, nomás alrededor de su casa de ella. Él tuvo éxito por esconderla por unos cuantos días ahí cerca de su casa. Imagínense si él se lo hubiera llevado a otra parte. Entonces eso nos recuerda que nosotros tenemos que urgir a todo el público que tengan mucho cuidado con quién se están juntando sus jóvenes.
Gracias.
Gracias. Any other questions on that case?
Yeah, I have
Hey,
a
Sharon.
question. Oh, sorry. I would like you to talk a little bit about the bigger picture here. You said that missing person cases are on the rise. Could you talk more about the circumstances behind those missing person cases and kind of talk to us? I mean, was the number so low last year because of the pandemic? Can you give us some more perspective on that?
That we don't know really. Is there I mean, obviously we know that last year during the pandemic, that probably added to why the number was so low. I'd like to see where we were in years past prior to that. I don't have that information in front of me. What I can tell you is it appears that they're up now. Now, we don't know if this is just a slight uptick that, like many crimes, it cycles up, it cycles down, and sometimes we're left wondering, why did that jump up all of a sudden and then come right back down all of a sudden? So we may not know those reasons. It could be because we were sitting talking about it this morning when we were getting briefed up by our CID folks. It could be because report cards just came out and kiddos are feeling like like they might get in trouble, and so they run from home. Obviously, we know that there's probably, if a child's running from home because of bad grades, there may be other issues occurring in that child's home life that would lead it to that situation to where a child is running away. So I don't want people to freak out that, oh my gosh, my child got a bad grade, they're going to run away from home. There may be some other underlying issues, of course. It could be because the holidays are approaching. That's one of the factors that our CID folks were telling us that could be a driver behind it. We may never know. And there may be no rhyme or reason for why we're seeing such a dramatic uptick, but we do know that there is an uptick. And so what we do at that point is we try to attack it with public awareness. And we just let people know that, look, you've got to be on the lookout for this. This young lady was literally just down the street from where she lived. And this suspect had success in hiding her away for several weeks. And she was literally right there under the nose of her families. They didn't even know that this guy existed. In conducting a search of the young lady's home, one of our detectives found a note where she and this suspect had been talking back and forth, and we found his name in that letter. But other than that, the parents didn't even know that this guy existed, much less that he lived up the street, much less that he had their daughter in his home. And so that's a scary, scary thing, that this young lady's been gone for a couple of weeks. There she was right there by her house. Imagine if she was halfway across the country or halfway around the world, which we know that occurs in the world of trafficking. And again, we know that once they enter that world as a victim of trafficking, we may never see them again. We stand a very high chance of never seeing them again, even under the best of circumstances.
What about some of the circumstances behind some of the other missing person cases? Do you have any details about?
Sure, those are just calls for service involving a missing person of any age. Those are some of those are adults, some of those are children. Some of those may be, quite frequently we'll get calls for a missing child, 4 or 5 years old, and it turns out they were just hiding in the house from mom or dad. So I don't want people to think that there's at present 155 missing persons running around out in Bexar County as a result of these calls. Many of these are found within minutes or so. One of them, some of them could be a missing adult, maybe an Alzheimer's patient that wandered away from home and we've brought them back home. These are just calls for service that we received and dispatched the deputy to for a report of a missing person.
Thank you, sir.
Sheriff Brina here with KSAT. Do you have data on missing persons reports that were actually filed and how that compares?
No, we can probably get you that easily enough.
Okay.
I don't have that number in front of me, but I'm sure we can reproduce that number for you.
And have you seen for these missing persons calls, has it ever been this high, or is this something you've never seen?
That's the thing. I was just given those numbers for this year and last year, but again, I would like to see what it looked like in years prior. It could be that this is just a temporary uptick that we're seeing. What prompted us to pull those numbers is our sergeant and CID, Sergeant John Mahan was briefing us earlier, and he says, "Gosh, you know what? There just seems to be a lot more going on right now." And that was just him working from memory, going, "We've really just had a lot of these." But only then did we pull those numbers and realize, well, yeah, he's not messing around. Those numbers are high. But we'll have to get you the number on how many were actually entered as missing.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if there are no other questions on the missing persons case, let me give you a brief up on a couple of narcotics cases that our DEA, our deputy assigned to the DEA task force and the DEA worked on jointly over the past couple of days. Initially, this case started with an undercover operation that occurred in the 15,600 block of IH-10 West at a restaurant. One of our undercover deputies was conducting an undercover operation where he negotiated for several kilos of cocaine to be delivered. Surveillance was established. Deputies were able to stop a suspect with 8 kilos of cocaine close to that restaurant that were destined to be delivered to the undercover deputy. They then conducted a follow-up search warrant at that suspect arrested in that case was Hector Chavez, 22 years of age. Also arrested that night were Manuel Herrera, 26, Luis Valderas Perez, 23 years of age. The three of them were placed under arrest that night. That would have been Tuesday, November 2nd. And they were arrested in the 6300 block of Pecan Valley Drive. That case led to other cases over the course of the next several days. On November 3rd, last night, we made 2 additional arrests pursuant to the same case, same group of folks. Those arrests were Heriberto Chavez, 35 years of age, and Blanca Arrington, 33 years of age. They were arrested in the 900 block of Trilby in Bexar County. All total, all said and done, among those 2 cases and then some others that occurred within the part of that same operation, we got about 18 kilos of cocaine, 18 kilograms of cocaine, 4 kilos of methamphetamine, and probably the scariest part of this was a half kilo of fentanyl, which we all know is a drug that has proven to be pretty deadly. I wouldn't even begin to give you all the number of people that could potentially be harmed or killed by a half kilo of fentanyl, but I'd venture to say that number is probably well into the hundreds, being that drug is just a scary, scary thing that we all need to be aware of. So in addition to those 18 kilos of cocaine, 4 kilos of meth, and a half kilo of fentanyl, we also seized about over $25,000 in drug money that was seized. And all said and done, the street value of all of those narcotics together, we're looking at $1.6 million over the course of that 2-day investigation. So just our CID folks, our covert operations, and our organized crime group never cease to amaze me. Last week, they were able to get that other case off the roadway where it was, I believe it was about $3 million worth of methamphetamine that they seized on the highway. Just doing a great job of getting these drugs off of our streets. Esta tarde también vamos a dar más información tocante una investigación de antidrogas que nosotros hemos estado trabajando por varios días. Nosotros hemos arrestado 5 sospechosos en este caso. Luis Valderas Pérez, 23 años de edad. Manuel Herrera, 26 años de edad. Héctor Chávez, 22 años de edad. Heriberto Chávez, 35. Y Blanca Arrington, 33. Estos 5 sospechosos en los días anteriores, nuestros oficiales trabajando en una operación encubierta, ellos trabajaron y ellos, al principio, ellos arrestaron a un sospechoso con 8 kilogramos de cocaína. En los días, la investigación que siguió, ellos hicieron varias otras operaciones y el total de las drogas ahorita sabemos que hemos logrado 18 kilos de cocaína, 4 kilos de metanfetamina y un medio kilo de fentanilo. Nosotros en total, el valor de estas drogas en la calle son más que $1 millón, $1,600,000,000 el valor de las drogas estas. Ya sabemos que hace unos cuantos días nuestros oficiales también lograron tumbar varios kilos de metanfetamina con valor que más que $3 millones. Entonces, esta unidad antipandilla de crimen organizado, ellos han estado trabajando juntos con nuestros socios, otras agencias socias, todas las agencias trabajando en concierto para poder arrestar a estas personas. Nosotros ya con esta operación pensamos que hemos descompuesto una organización local, pero también sabemos que el trabajo sigue. What we believe is that at this point, with these last 2 cases, one of which being several $1 million in seized methamphetamine on the highway, obviously this one being $1.6 million in seized cocaine, methamphetamine, and fentanyl. Obviously, we believe this is a serious blow to at least one drug organization here locally, but we also know that we can't take too much time doing a touchdown dance. This is probably a drop in the bucket on what's going through our county on a daily basis, but I do want everybody to know about the hard work that our organized crime group has been putting in. Any questions on these cases? No? Okay, thank you so much. One last case we'll mention. A couple of weeks ago, or a couple of days ago, we put out information on an attempted, or I'm sorry, it was a successful carjacking. You all may have seen it on social media, where on November 1st at Petrenko Road and Stevens Ranch, a gentleman was robbed of his vehicle at gunpoint. That suspect got into the vehicle and drove away before being involved in a crash with I believe it was a delivery van, several very close to the location. Somebody was able to take a picture of that suspect right after he crashed that car and then fled on foot. On Tuesday, November 2nd, we did receive a call from somebody that saw that picture that after we put it out on social media. Of course, the mainstream media picked it up. They were able to make a call to us, and we were able to make an arrest unrelated to the carjacking. Let me be clear about that. On November 2nd, that call was placed from somebody that recognized him on the social media post. They called it in as a suspicious person saying, hey, this guy looks like the guy that you all put out on Facebook the other day. That Good Samaritan was able to follow him at a safe distance and maintain eyesight of him until deputies made contact with the suspect. That suspect, Derek Wayne Sherrod, was placed under arrest on an unrelated felony warrant that he already had. We began working the case on the carjacking from the day before, from the 1st. He was in custody for the other unrelated felony count. Last night, we were able to get an arrest warrant, walked on that suspect, and we were able to charge him with aggravated robbery from the case on November 1st. And so Derek Wayne Sherrod now faces that charge of aggravated robbery. Any questions on that case? Okay. El día 1 de noviembre, nosotros fuimos despachados a una llamada en Potranco y Stevens Ranch por un reporte de un robo de un carro. Se aparenta que la víctima estaba manejando su carro cuando él se paró y un sospechoso se le acercó y lo amenazó con una pistola. La víctima se salió del carro y el sospechoso huyó en el carro de la víctima. Él chocó ese carro con otro vehículo antes y él huyó a pie, pero antes de que él logró huir a pie, un testigo logró tomarle una foto al sospechoso y nosotros pusimos esa foto en nuestras redes sociales, en Facebook. Los medios levantaron la historia esa y lo pusieron obviamente en la televisión. Un testigo, el día 2, un testigo nos llamó que él vio a un hombre que se parecía al sospechoso que nosotros pusimos el retrato, en la foto en las redes sociales. Él siguió el sospechoso y pues nos habló a nosotros. Nuestros oficiales lograron pescar al sospechoso y lo arrestaron por otra felonía, una orden de arresto por otra felonía que él tenía. Él estaba en la cárcel mientras que nosotros seguimos trabajando el caso del robo original, del caso original del robo. Anoche nuestros detectives lograron sacar suficiente información para poner cargos a este sospechoso por el robo que ocurrió el día primero. Y pues ahora nos da mucho gusto poder cerrar ese caso con el arresto de Derek Wayne Sherrod. Y pues obviamente nos da mucho gusto. Lo que nosotros les podemos decir al público, and I'll do the same thing in English here in just a few, lo que nosotros les podemos urgir al público es que si están en público, si están en su carro, si están en una luz, será mejor fijarse a cualquier momento qué está pasando alrededor de su carro. Si alguien se le va acercando al carro, es importante tener las puertas atrancadas. También, si está en una luz, por ejemplo, es mejor dejar espacio en del carro enfrente para si alguien se le acerca a pie y no se puede salir de allí, pueden salirse con el espacio que han dejado entre el carro enfrente. Entonces, les urgimos a todo el público que por favor tengan mucho cuidado en cada momento. Es muy fácil ser distraído dentro del carro y no poner atención a lo que está pasando y alguien se le puede acercar. En este caso, la víctima hizo lo que pudo hacer. Él sobrevivió el incidente, obviamente. Él le dio el carro al sospechoso Afortunadamente, la víctima no tenía, por ejemplo, un niño en el carro y ya con alguien quitándole el carro, obviamente le quitan al niño también. Hemos visto muchos casos así, pero aunque afortunadamente sabemos que hemos hecho el arresto en este caso, el trabajo sigue y es algo que nosotros tenemos que seguir dándole la información al público. Let me give you a little bit of information on this case, kind of a crime prevention type information. With regard to what the victim did in this case, he absolutely did the right thing, I think, in my opinion. He gave the car up. No car, no matter how much it's worth, is worth a human life. In this instance, that suspect had a weapon that he threatened the victim with. That victim absolutely gave up his car and let that car go. Obviously, we got the car back in a little bit worse condition after an accident, but in my estimation, I think as long as that victim survived that incident, that's a win for us, especially in light of the fact that we do have this suspect in custody now. What I can say is just from a crime prevention perspective, while these tips won't necessarily prevent every crime, what we can do is lessen the chances. We want to make sure that everybody's available at any given time. Everybody's aware at any given time of what's going on around them. Be aware of your 360 and just be aware of who may be approaching your car. Keep your doors locked, your windows up. And I would say allow yourself some reactionary distance. So if, for example, you're at a red light, don't pull right up to the bumper of the car in front of you. You want to leave yourself a little bit of reactionary distance. So let's say, for example, somebody does start walking up to your car and you've left a 10 or 15 foot buffer between you and the car in front of you. You can pull around and try to get out that way and make your escape in the event that somebody may be coming up. Again, in this case, the victim did exactly what I would recommend anybody do. give that car up and get yourself out of that situation. Fortunately, in this instance, that victim didn't have a child with them in the car that would have actually, presented a lot more of a problem had a suspect gotten in that car and gotten away with a child in the back seat. Unfortunately, we've seen instances like that happening. And so we would certainly urge the public to be aware. Additionally, although this is not our case, so I'm not going to comment on it too much. Well, we saw what happened in the quarry parking lot a few nights ago, certainly an extremely heartbreaking case. But again, it just goes to show that we definitely need to be aware of at all times of our surroundings, especially in situations like parking lots. With the holidays approaching, I will reiterate the holiday safety tips I give at all times when people are out shopping. Don't be a sitting duck in your car. Don't be an easy target in your car. Get to the store, get out of the car, obviously check your surroundings, get into the store as quickly as possible, get back out to your car as quickly as possible, and leave. Don't sit there and look through your purse or your wallet. Don't check your receipts there in the parking lot. Don't get too caught up on, well, did I get my older daughter the sweater that she wanted? Let me double check against my shopping list. Get out of there. Don't be a sitting duck in a parking lot. Conduct your business elsewhere. So don't spend too much time in that car, because you are an easy target, especially if your head is down and you're looking at a purse or into your shopping bag. So we want to make sure that you're out of that location as soon as possible. Any questions on that case? Okay, I will close with this. We are just exceedingly happy at the success that we've been seeing with regard to recruitment and our training academy. I just wanted to give everybody some perspective on it. Last week, we were blessed in that we graduated 2 cadet classes. We actually graduated a cadet class of 16 detention cadets. We also graduated a class of around 27 law enforcement cadets that are going straight to patrol. Tomorrow, as a matter of fact, we're graduating a cadet class. I believe it's 27 additional detention officers that'll be hitting the floors this next weekend. And then it looks like around every 2 weeks for the rest of the year, we're going to be graduating cadet classes of around 25 to 30 cadets. And that actually takes us well into January. We've already got our classes planned out. So we're just extremely excited about the numbers that we're seeing coming through the training academy, especially in light of the fact that we have not relaxed our standards. I gotta say, I've taken some criticism over not wanting to relax my standards. But just to give you a little bit of perspective, last year we took in about 3,000 applications over the course of the year. And we successfully hired about 250 people. This year, in spite of the fact that our standards remained high, we've only taken in about 1,500 applications. So fewer applications are actually down by 50%. Obviously, nothing too surprising, because every law enforcement agency is seeing that same thing. However, we're on track to hire successfully 260 people over this year. So even though our applications are lower by 50%, our successful hires are up over last year, and we haven't reduced our standards at all. So that tells me that we're getting a higher quality, a higher caliber of applicant coming through. Obviously, we're still got our work cut out for us with regard to retention. We are seeing the same issues with regard to retention that every other law enforcement agency. Well, every law enforcement agency and every company in the United States is seeing it right now. People are just quick to leave a job at this point. Now, with that being said, we do know that a good number of people that are leaving, not just the sheriff's office, but our profession, are leaving because it's just the natural progression of their career. They may be part of that hiring wave that happened in the early 90s. And now that hiring wave from the early 90s is turning into a retirement tsunami, 30, 35 years later. And folks are just, as a natural progression of their careers, moving on to greener pastures. And so that may be part of what's driving our higher number of folks leaving the profession. But nonetheless, we're going to continue to do what we've been doing with regard to recruitment. So we're happy to see all of these cadet classes coming through, and we will certainly be shouting it from the rooftops every time we get a cadet class graduate over the course of the next several months. Again, it makes us extremely happy. Any questions on any of these cases that we've talked about today? No? Okay. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you all tuning in to let us brag on our folks a little bit. Again, I'm just extremely happy at the work that not just our covert operations and our partners at the DEA and our other partner agencies are doing, but also our organized crime group within the sheriff's office, our CID folks that are investigating missing persons cases, aggravated robberies and homicides, but additionally our street patrol deputies that continue to do a great job, as well as our deputies in jail. Thank y'all so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Y'all, God bless each and every one of y'all.